In the 1st century, the early church faced an existential threat. A man named Saul secured extradition letters from the high priest in Jerusalem, granting him the authority to hunt down members of the new movement across regional borders. This state-sanctioned violence forced the community into total secrecy. Survival depended on remaining invisible, as the threat of arrest turned every public gathering into a potential trap. Saul traveled toward Damascus with a documented objective to find anyone belonging to the Way, whether men or women, and bring them back to Jerusalem in chains. This creates a critical sociological dilemma. For an underground network, geographic secrecy is the only defense. Yet here, the most efficient hunter in the region knew exactly where the movement's hubs were located. The danger wasn't limited to physical safety. By tracking the network's members so effectively, Saul threatened to destroy the internal trust required for the movement to function. On the road to Damascus, a sudden, blinding light halts Saul's mission. A voice from heaven confronts him directly, stopping the predator in his tracks. Saul undergoes an immediate physical reversal. He is no longer an authoritative hunter. He is a helpless, blind man who must be led by the hand into the city. This map illustrates the distance between isolated clusters. Standing between them is Ananias, a local disciple who receives a terrifying directive. He initially refuses, but ultimately risks his life, acting as the point of contact for the movement's greatest enemy. Ananias enters the house, calls Saul brother, and restores his sight. Through this physical interaction, Saul is baptized and integrated into the local Damascus community. While a divine intervention stopped the hunter, it required the radical courage of a local intermediary to transform him into an active part of the network. The aftermath in Damascus is immediate and shocking. Saul begins preaching in the synagogues, confounding the local population who expected a persecutor and instead found an advocate. The power dynamic inverts entirely. The hunter becomes the hunted, as local authorities guard the city gates day and night to prevent his escape. Saul is forced into a degrading escape. Under the cover of night, his new allies lower him down the exterior city wall in a basket, bypassing the guards. When Saul arrives in Jerusalem, he meets a wall of terror. The local disciples logically refuse to believe his conversion is genuine, fearing he is a high-level infiltrator. Integration requires a specific kind of validation. Barnabas steps forward, leveraging his established reputation to vouch for Saul's actions to the skeptical apostles. Radical conversions remain isolated and effectively useless, without an established leader willing to risk their social capital to bring an outsider into the fold. As the central leadership stabilizes, Peter travels outward to the grassroots communities, reaching the saints living in Lydda. Peter heals Aeneas, a man who had been bedridden for 8 years. This visible restoration leads to a mass conversion throughout the regions of Lydda and Saron. In the city of Joppa, we see the importance of local figures like Tabitha, also known as Dorcas. Her value to the movement is defined by her constant charity and good works for those in need. When Tabitha dies, the local widows gather in grief, displaying the garments she made for them. She was the cornerstone of the community's social safety net. Peter intervenes, raising Tabitha from the dead, and presenting her alive to the widows and saints who depended on her. Long-term movement survival depends on these grassroots figures. By validating their roles, the leadership secures the social structures that physically sustain the community. We can contrast the beginning of this narrative with its conclusion. The initial period of threats and slaughter gives way to a new reality of rest and peace across Judea, Galilee, and Samaria. Breaking the bottleneck of persecution allowed the fragmented underground churches to finally be edified, leading to exponential multiplication. Blinding lights and dramatic disruptions are the initial spark of a revolution, but the expansion is sustained by the invisible human infrastructure, the Ananiases, Barnabases, and Dorcases, who manage the risk of growth. An unstoppable movement builds its strength by forging an internal network of trust capable of absorbing even its most dangerous adversaries.